The coronavirus is destroying liberal America and further exacerbating the red and blue divide. That's right. There's an increasing awareness that the coronavirus is disproportionately infecting left-wing liberal America, and that has leftists panicked over how red state America is going to respond to all this. So we're going to take a look at the latest here and see how our nation is growing even more partisan and more divided as a result of this pandemic. I think you'll find it very informative. Greetings, everyone. Wonderful to be with you as always. I certainly hope you're having a safe and sound Saturday. Before we begin analyzing the growing right and left partisan divide in our country over this pandemic, I am so excited to announce the premiere of the Turley Talks Insiders Club, which you can check out by clicking on the link below. We've received countless emails over the past several months of how you can get closer access to me and my work analyzing the rise of a new conservative age, and how you can be directly part of a group of conservatives from all over the world to network with them. Well, your wish is our command. That's precisely what you're going to get by joining our Insiders Club. By becoming a member, you'll get even more exclusive access to me and our journey together into this conservative age we're embarking on. Each week, you'll get a special deep dive video reserved solely for our Insiders members. You get access to our private Facebook group that features conservatives from all over the world. And plus, you get my monthly reading list to keep you updated on the best and most enriching information that's out there. You get a number of bonus videos, such as video courses that I've taught. You'll even get some awesome accessories like our Turley Talks tumbler to drink your coffee in, right? So don't wait. Make sure to click on the link below and watch the video that we put together for you on the Turley Talks Insiders Club to get a fuller sense of what you'll be a part of. I think you're going to absolutely love it, and it'll certainly be my privilege to journey with you into this new conservative age together. All right, gang, let's dive in here. There are a number of articles surfacing comparing and contrasting red America, which is conservative America, with blue America, which is leftist liberal America, throughout this whole coronavirus epidemic. What you may not be aware of is that the coronavirus right now in the United States is primarily a blue state crisis. It's a pandemic that's hit the left-wing liberal democratic states disproportionately hard. Ron Brownstein over at the leftist Atlantic, he observes so far the greatest clusters of the disease and the most aggressive responses to it have centered in a few large, unbelievably, he calls them Democratic-leaning metropolitan areas such as Seattle, New York, San Francisco, and Boston. Who on earth would ever call these cesspools of liberalism Democratic-leaning? Well, I guess New York, right, with Rudy Giuliani as a Republican mayor there, and Bloomberg, he had his Republican stint there. But my heavens, Democratic-leaning San Francisco, Seattle, these are Democratic havens. These are Democratic meccas, but not to quibble. You may not be aware that it is the case that 50% of the nation's cases so far are located in just 10 counties. And these are disproportionately left-wing liberal counties in New York, Massachusetts, Washington State, California. And this has this leftist, this fellow Ron Brownstein, who's writing for The Atlantic, he's very worried. He's worried that if the virus remains largely confined in terms of its mass outbreaks to these left-wing bastions, not going far beyond the Democratic monopolized big cities, that could reinforce the sense among many Republican voters and office holders that not only was the threat overstated, but it could actually continue to fuel the kind of xenophobia that Trump and other GOP leaders have encouraged by labeling the disease the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus. I kid you not, okay? This is the way leftists are thinking about the coronavirus. Racism is their greatest worry. An outbreak is xenophobia. These are the perils that face us in the midst of this pandemic. But Ed Kilgore, writing for the New Yorker's Intelligencer, he sees something even deeper going on. He sees the pandemic solidifying the hostility between rural red states and the urban blue states. He cites some scholarship that argues that there's been a long tradition of rural hostility towards the big city folk aligned with foreigners, and often as a consequence, foreign diseases. So past flu pandemics have been blamed on the population-dense cosmopolitan areas by rural urban populations, and by rural populations, I should say. And he's very concerned that this is going to, again, unleash this tremendous sense of xenophobia and racism in our nation. And so this realization that red America is increasingly blaming blue America for this pandemic is causing other left-wing liberal pundits like Jonathan Chait questioning as to whether Trump even cares about the coronavirus killing off blue America. It's probably one of the more hysterical pieces I've read in a long time. You've got your cliched characters, the big evil orange ogre who somehow became president. We're sure with the help of Vladimir Putin or someone. And then you have, of course, the wonderful, virtuous, courageous left-wing liberal governors like Andrew Cuomo of New York doing their very best to help their populations through this crisis. And the big evil orange ogre doesn't care or give a rip about him. In fact, Trump is the first president, this is what this guy says, to politicize a pandemic. Not Pelosi. No. In this fellow's liberal la-la land, Pelosi doesn't even show up. She's not even a character in the story. But Andrew Cuomo is. He's there begging the evil President Putin. I mean Trump. He's literally begging for Trump to front load the federal government's ventilator supply to his state. But we can all just assume, he actually ends his article with this, we can just assume, given how evil Trump is, we can just assume he will ignore the virtuous, the righteous Andrew Cuomo. Now, this article was written a few days back, and perhaps this author was unaware that Andrew Cuomo has since admitted that New York hospitals have all the ventilators they need right now. In fact, they have a surplus. The issue is the estimated needs in about 3 weeks from now. That's legit. And I don't quite see why the Trump administration wouldn't meet that need, especially since they've already met the current needs. So this seems to me a little more than just left-wing hysterics disguised as journalism, which basically describes the mainstream Marxist media in general at this point. These hysteria pieces also conveniently overlook how the New York Times has actually come out and blamed evangelical Christians for the spread of the coronavirus. I kid you not. That's our other video of the day today you want to check out. But without the slightest shred of actual evidence, the New York Times editorial asserted that American conservative evangelicals are science deniers. And as advisors to the president, these science-denying evangelicals actually exacerbated the virus. Again, you have to watch the other video just to see how flimsy of an argument is, or you can already tell. But for our purposes here on this video, you'll notice that the New York Times has no problem politicizing the pandemic and blaming one of the defining populations in red state demographics for the spread of the virus. So you notice the pattern here, very interesting. When red state conservatives blame blue state liberals for the spread of the virus, well, that's because we're racist, xenophobic bigots. You getting it here? But when blue state liberals blame red state conservatives for the spread of the virus, well, that's because red state conservatives are predominantly science-denying evagelicals. Do you see the heads I win, tails you lose game the leftists and the mainstream Marxist media like to play? We love to see, these are nothing more than left-wing activists disguised as journalists. As leftist liberals, they cannot possibly see the world in any other way than the notion that if you're a leftist, then by definition, you're rational and liberal. And you're rational and liberal because your worldview is supposedly based on science, right? And then you realize that anything outside of scientific verification is a matter of just pure personal opinion, like religion or sexuality or gender. So if you're a leftist, by definition, you're rational and liberal. So what does that mean if you are anti-leftist? Well, by definition, it means you're irrational and repressive. Do you see how the game's played? That's the left-wing worldview. If you're a leftist, you're by definition rational and liberal. Well, if you're a non-leftist or anti-leftist, then by definition, you're irrational and repressive. And of course, the obvious aspect in all of this is that there's nothing rational or liberal about the leftist worldview. There's nothing scientifically rational about assuming one's case by definition. And there's nothing liberal about insisting that no one's allowed to have opinions that differ from yours. And so all of this is to say that the coronavirus is clearly serving as an occasion for further dividing red and blue America. There was very little uniting us before the pandemic. It turns out there'll be even less after the pandemic. Our country continues to divide itself along geographically delineated partisan lines. And this pandemic is rendering such divisions more pronounced than ever. Now, before you go, you'll definitely want to check out my latest video on Joe Biden's imploding campaign. Now he's being accused of sexual harassment, all the while his campaign continues to collapse. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse for him. But you're going to love it. Make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.